Welcome back to Top 10 Scary Urban Legends, and if you haven't already, be sure to click that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you never miss out on a future video ever again. From haunted subway lines to a criminal case called the Hello Kitty, coming in at our number 10 spot is the Hello Kitty, a haunting tale that began in May 1999 when a young girl around the age of 13 went to the police to report that she was being haunted by a woman in her 20s. The girl claimed that this woman was tortured. The police had been searching for a woman with a very similar description, and so they decided to investigate. Their search led them to a flat on Granville Road 31 where they discovered a Hello Kitty doll stuffed with a woman's head. The victim was identified as Fan Man Yi, a nightclub hostess who had reportedly failed to pay up a large debt to some powerful men. Some have speculated that there may be a connection to the Chinese mafia as well. However, the investigation took a shocking turn when it was revealed that the 13-year-old girl who had reported she was involved with a group of older men, including her boyfriend, who had planned and carried out the brutal crime. And despite the heinousness of this crime, the case became famous around the world due to the unusual discovery of the Hello Kitty doll. Some believe that the spirit of this tortured girl may have been haunting the young girl, but many others attribute it to a guilty conscience. At our number 9 spot, we have Beijing's Metro Line 1. The construction of Beijing's Metro Line 1 in 1965 was a challenging endeavor, with dangerous accidents and broken equipment marring the early phases. According to an urban legend, the troubles were caused by the vengeful homeless spirits whose graves were disturbed during the construction. To appease these spirits, monks were brought in to perform ceremonies, promising that the metro would close before 11 p.m. This ghostly story is likely due to the city's ancient history of human habitation and evidence that remains were disturbed during construction. The line also services the Babaoshan Revolutionary Cemetery, adding more to this eerie connection. However, the story is likely just a tale, as most of these metro lines in Beijing now close after 11 p.m. At our number 8 spot, we have the disappearance of 3,000 Chinese troops. The urban legend of the Nanjing soldiers tell the story of almost 3,000 soldiers who disappeared without a trace in 1939 during the Second Sino-Japanese War. The soldiers were stationed in the hills surrounding Nanjing to defend a bridge against an impending Japanese attack. However, when Colonel Li Fuxin checked on them the next day, they were completely gone, and an investigation team found the site completely abandoned with no signs of struggle. Heavy weapons were taken in place, and troops stationed at the bridge claimed no one had slipped by in the night. The disappearance of the soldiers remains a mystery to this day, and various theories abound, from abduction to extraterrestrial beings to an elaborate ruse by the Chinese army to fake the presence of troops. However, most historians believe the soldiers were likely victims of the brutal war, either captured and executed by the Japanese or killed in action and buried in unmarked graves. Regardless of the truth, the eerie tale of the Nanjing soldiers continues to haunt the popular imagination, reminding us of the horrors of war and the mysteries that can lurk in the shadows of history. Coming in at our number 7 spot, we have the last bus to Beijing's Fragrant Hills. It all began on a dark and possibly stormy night on November 14th, 1995, when a young man boarded the last bus heading to Beijing's Fragrant Hills, located in the Haidian district. Shortly after the man boarded the Route 302 bus, two mysterious men tried to flag the bus down. The bus driver was initially hesitant to pick up the men since they weren't waiting at the specific bus stop. However, the driver eventually decided to stop after the conductor reminded him that it was the last bus ride of the night. Once the two mysterious men boarded the bus, passengers were surprised that they were dressed in Qing Dynasty robes and that there are actually 3 men, the third sporting long messy hair, supported by the 2 roadside creepers. The men's faces were said to be as white as snow, and they didn't interact with any of the passengers. As the bus journeyed on, passengers gradually began to disembark, and the young man remained inside with the mystery trio. That's when things took a very strange turn. The old woman suddenly accused the young man of stealing her wallet, leading to a heated argument. The quarrel was eventually resolved when the old woman insisted that the two go to the nearest police station to settle the matter. Once off the bus, the young man grew angry with the old woman since there was no police station in sight. But then the old woman dropped a bombshell. She claimed that the 3 robed men did not have legs and must have been ghosts. The young man then turned around to see that the 3 men had disappeared without a trace. At our number 6 spot, we have the haunted office building. If you're looking for a spine-chilling tale to keep you at night, look no further other than the Shangyang building in the heart of Shenzhen. According to local legends, this office building is haunted by the vengeful ghosts of past employees who were blamed for the failures of various businesses in the 1960s and 70s. It's said that these employees were executed on the premises during China's Cultural Revolution, and their spirits have been restless ever since. But the story doesn't end there. As Shenzhen began to develop more rapidly, someone had the bright idea to capitalize on the building's haunted reputation by hiring a ghost specialist to advise on how to handle the restless spirits. And to this day, many people are doing things to appease the spirits that are supposedly contained in this building. In the hump of our list, we have the Dragon Pillar. The Yang'an Elevated Road in Shanghai is known for heavy traffic, but it's also known for a mysterious Dragon Pillar. The 15-kilometer long expressway has a pillar at the cross-section with Nangbei Goja near People Square that's decorated with metallic finishing and 9 large bronze dragons. According to legend, construction workers had trouble drilling to the required depth in 1995, so government officials invited Feng Shui masters to look at the site, but they refused to prescribe a solution. A monk from the Jade Buddha Temple eventually performed a religious ceremony and asked for the pillar to be covered with 9 dragons, since this was the resting spot for the city's guardian dragon. After the ceremony was finished, workers installed 7 pillars at the site and construction resumed. However, the monk who performed the ritual died a few days later, leading many to believe his death was a punishment for spilling the secrets on the dragon's home. Despite officials dismissing the story as fiction, it is a well-known urban myth among locals, and people believe that you may face the same punishment as this man did if you decide to spill the secret of this dragon's home. At a number 4 spot, we have the Single Braid Road. The Chinese University of Hong Kong is known for its beautiful campus and stunning views. However, there is a road that runs along the campus that has gained a sinister reputation over the years. This road is called the Single Braid Road, and it's said to be haunted by a female ghost with 1 long braid. Legend has it that the ghost is the spirit of a young woman who passed away from a tragic death many years ago. According to the story, the woman was an illegal immigrant who tried to sneak into Hong Kong from the mainland with her boyfriend. While they were on the train, the police boarded to check passports. In a moment of panic, the woman decided to jump off of the train, but her braid got caught in the window frame and it was ripped off of her scalp along with her face. The woman stumbled onto the Single Braid Road where she passed away. Since then, many people have reported seeing a ghostly figure on the road, and the apparition is said to be a young woman with a long braid, dressed in traditional Chinese clothing. She's often seen walking alone at night, and some say that she appears to be searching for something. There are numerous sightings of the ghost over the years, and many students claim to have seen her. Number 3, the Death Worm. The Gobi Desert, located between Mongolia and China, is said to have a Mongolian death worm, otherwise known as the intestine worm, due to its appearance of being very fleshy and red in color. This 2 to 7 foot long creature has the ability to spit out venomous liquid out of its mouth, and if you even get close enough to touch the creature, it's believed that the entire body is covered in a sticky poisonous substance that will kill you on touch. It can even electrocute you the same way an eel can. While movies on this creature depict it as this large colossal being, it's actually believed to be a lot smaller, around 7 feet long. But regardless, the fact that this creature can hide anywhere in the desert sands and come out with basically no weaknesses makes it one of the most dangerous and scariest ones to see on this list. Number 2, the Knock. Imagine you're alone in this tiny spacecraft. It's your first time up there, all alone in an endless space. Then suddenly you hear a knock, as if you're back home. Well, this really happened. Back in 2003, Yang Lingwei became the first astronaut sent into space by the Chinese space program. When he was up there, he heard something that was something like a knock. He described it as, quote, someone knocking the body of the spaceship just as knocking an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. Sound waves cannot travel through space, which makes it very, very quiet for us. So this is just more reason to question what this sound really was. There were even other Chinese astronauts between 2005 and 2008 who reported very similar sounds, and it's not like you can just open the door to check this. Maybe the Chinese space program has some features that NASA doesn't, or maybe there was something actually out there in space trying to get into the spacecraft. Number 1. Room 111. The legend known as Room 111 or the Dimension Traveler is about an electrical engineering student who believed that he could travel to another dimension by creating a magnetic field with his self-made contraption. He had hoped to travel to another dimension and possibly even time travel. The legend has evolved over time, with some versions stating that the student was successful in his experiments and that he disappeared into another dimension. Others claim that his experiment went horribly wrong. Some versions even say that the student's ghost still haunts Room 111 and that strange phenomena occur in the room, such as flickering lights and doors opening and closing on their own. Regardless of the accuracy of the story, it has become a popular ghost story among students and has been passed down from generation to generation in China.
Number 10. Bakazori. The Bakazori is described as a wandering sandal with 2 arms and 2 legs, but only 1 eye. He is said to spook inhabited households during the night, running around and continuously chanting Kararin, Kororin, Kankororin, Managu Mitsu ni ha ninmai, which means they have 3 eyes and 2 teeth. Most possibly he's mocking his more noble cousins, the famous Geta. Design model of the Bakazori may have been Zori, traditional sandals made of braided rice straw. The being Bakazori belongs to a special group of yokai called Suku Mogami, the artifact demons. According to Japanese folklore, households are like repair tools, kitchen appliances, and even clothes of any kind which eventually come to life and receive their own consciousness when ignored or neglected for a long time, mostly after 100 years. Bakazori are said to be normally harmless to humans, but they can start to rip or pester them. Their motivation is boredom and frustration, or simply revenge and jealousy. Most Bakazori group up with other animated household stuff or clothes, or they simply leave home and run away. Number 9. Biwa Boku. The Biwa Boku is described as an anthropomorphic being with the head of a traditional biwa. He is also said to wear a precious kimono. The Biwa Boku comes to life at night and sits calmly in a tatami room, singing and plinking while lamenting the neglect of his former owner. Other stories report of Biwa Boku dancing through inhabited households while making much noise. The Biwa Boku was modeled after the biwa, a short-necked wooden lute. Toriyami Sekien reports in his work Hyake Zure Zure Bukuro that the biwa was designed after Chinese instruments such as the bokuma and the genjo. Number 8. Boroborotan. Boroborotan is a type of yokai from Japanese folklore that is depicted as a tattered futon or bedroll that has been thrown away or abandoned. The name Boroborotan is derived from the sound of a tattered futon flapping in the wind. According to legend, Boroborotan is said to haunt people who have mistreated their futon or bedding, particularly those who have thrown them away without showing proper respect. The Boroborotan may appear to these individuals as a ghostly apparition, seeking revenge for the mistreatment of its former home. There are many variations of the Boroborotan legend, and its appearance and behavior may vary depending on the source. However, it is generally considered to be a mischievous or malevolent spirit that should be avoided or appeased with offerings or respectful treatment of one's bedding. Number 7. Chochin Obake. Chochin Obake is a type of yokai from Japanese folklore that is depicted as a haunted paper lantern that comes to life. The term Chochin Obake literally means lantern ghost or lantern monster. According to legend, a Chochin Obake is created when a paper lantern is left unattended for a long period of time and gains a spirit or life of its own. The lantern may then sprout arms, legs, a face, or even wings, and begin to move around on its own, causing mischief or scaring people. Chochin Obake are often depicted with a single eye or a large toothy mouth, and they are known to cackle or make other eerie noises as they move about and may even fly or float through the air. Number 6. Itan Moment. These are said to wrap around people's necks and cover people's faces and suffocate people, and in other tales it is said that wrapped cloths could spin around and quickly come flying, wrap people around their bodies, and take them away to the skies. There's a story where one man was hurrying to his home at night when a white cloth came and wrapped around his neck, and when he cut it with his wakizashi, a short sword, the cloth disappeared, and remaining on his hand was some blood. In regions where they are said to appear and disappear, there seemed to be a custom where children were warned that if they play too late, that Itan Moment would come. Also, it is said that in Kimotsuki, there are shrines where Itan Moment are said to frequently appear, and it was believed that when children pass in front of the shrine, an Itan Moment flying above in the skies would attack the last child in line. Number 5. Casa Obaki. These are generally umbrellas with one eye and jump around with one leg, but sometimes they have 2 arms or 2 eyes among other features, and they also sometimes are depicted to have a long tongue. Sometimes, but rarely, they have 2 feet, as depicted in the yokai imaki such as the Hyaki Yagyo Zumaki. In the Hyaki Yagyo Imaki from the Muromachi period, yokai that appeared as umbrellas could be seen, but in this imaki it was a humanoid yokai that merely had an umbrella on its head and thus had a different appearance than that resembling of Casa Obaki. The Casa Obaki that took on an appearance with 1 eye and 1 foot was seen from the Edo period and onward, and in the Obaki Kurata, made from the Edo period to the Taisho period, Casa Obaki with 1 foot could often be seen. Number 4. Koto Furunushi. The Koto Furunushi has the appearance of a traditional koto, a Japanese zither, which grows a demonic face on its front. The strings start to meander into all directions, giving the impression of an uncombed mane. A famous legend comes from Saga Prefecture on Kyushu Peninsula, and is said to originate from the 2nd century AD. It tells the story of the Emperor of Japan, who had planned a palatial feast for his royal court. He chose Kanzaki as the festive place, and he ordered his gardeners to clean and groom the chosen park. The legend reports that the emperor was so excited about the resulting beauty of the festive palace that he left an enchanting koto as a present to the town of Kanzaki. A short time later, the koto magically transformed itself into a lush and noble camphor tree. From this day, it was told for centuries that anybody who took a rest at the roots of the tree could hear the faint but irresistibly calming sounds of a zither from the treetop. Today, it is said that the exact whereabouts of the holy tree was forgotten in time, but the ghost of the camphor tree may dive into very old kotos and animate them. Number 3. Kutsutsura. Kutsutsura are Mogami of Shoes. They can take either a human form or an animal form. In human form, they look like a court noble wearing a shoe as a hat. In animal form, they appear as a round, hairy beast with a fur boot for a snout. Kutsutsura appear in Toriyami Sekin's book, Hyaki Zure Bukuro. They are a pun based on an ancient Chinese saying, "Do not adjust your shoes in a melon patch, and do not adjust your hat under a plum tree." The phrase is a warning to avoid compromising situations. Someone who takes off their shoes in a melon patch or fiddles with their hat under a plum tree might give the impression that they are stealing fruit in their shoes or under their hat. In other words, it is wise to avoid doing anything that might give others reason to doubt you. Number 2. Ungai Kyo. Ungai Kyo is a haunted mirror which shows demons and monsters reflected in its surface. The spirit which haunts this mirror, as well as the countless spirits which have been reflected in it over the years, can manipulate the reflection and cause it to appear as anything they like. People who gaze into an Ungai Kyo might see a transformed monstrous version of themselves looking back. An Ungai Kyo can be used by humans to trap spirits. On the 15th night of the 8th month in the old lunar calendar, water is poured into a crystal dish to reflect the light of the full moon. In the old days, this was a popular way of admiring the reflection of the night sky. If that water is used to paint the image of a yokai onto a mirror, that spirit will then inhabit the mirror. Number 1. Kyorin. Kyorin is a spirit of knowledge formed from ancient scrolls, books, and scriptures which have been left unstudied by their owners and gathering dust. Kyorin are often extravagant. They decorate themselves with the most ornate volumes and scrolls, wearing them like a kimono. A scroll with tassels becomes the headpiece, and they develop bird-like beaks and long extendable arms. Compelled by the wisdom of the ages, the volumes that make up Kyorin rise up as a dragon-like spirit. The Kyorin use their elongated arms to assault the ignorant owners who let their priceless treasures and knowledge fall into disuse.
At a number 10 spot, we have the Kifune Shrine. This place is very well known as a beautiful sightseeing spot in Kyoto, Japan, but for many locals, the dark history makes them have a different perspective of the place. Kifune Shrine is known as the birthplace of a terrifying ritual known as the Ishunokuku Mari, which refers to placing a curse on someone by placing a nail through a straw effigy, which is sort of like a voodoo doll. Then you nail nail it onto a tree around the hours of 1 to 3 a.m. We did a 3 a.m. video, so you already know how cursed that time is. If anyone is caught watching this ritual, the person conducting the ritual must eliminate that person, or else the curse will reflect back onto them. The performer usually wears a white kimono, sandals, and places 3 burning candles on top of their head. If you visit the shrine to this day, you will find many trees with holes on it, presumably from the nails of those attempting this scary ritual. At our number 9 spot, we have the Aoshima Shrine. There is no doubt Japan is a very beautiful place, meaning that most of the shrines I mentioned on this list are very visitable, so I had to mention Aoshima Shrine to change your mind on that. This shrine contains over 20,000 dolls who are believed to be possessed from its past owners. The dolls will be left at the shrine as an offering from women to pray for fertility and for safe birth. Come on, look at this place. Tell me you would go here willingly. According to legend, Empress Zengu was journeying home from a war overseas. As she was on her way back home, a huge storm took over the seas and broke the boat partially. This caused the Empress to pray to the gods, and apparently they brought her back safely to Tomagashina. Here she would build the Aoshima Shrine to thank the gods for their service. People believe that these dolls over time would develop souls, so the reason why many donate it is to get rid of the curse trapped inside of these dolls that caused many of the problems and issues within their own life. At number 8 spot, we have the Dashogun Shrine. This shrine was originally built by Emperor Kanmu in 794. It was originally built to break the evil coming from all sorts of directions, whether this be from physical enemies or spiritual beings. This became a place where people would go to pray for protection. Specifically, many would call for the god of the stars, Dashogun. Enshrined at the place are many Japanese figures fighting a beast named the Nu. A Nu is a Japanese yokai described as having the head of a monkey, the body of a raccoon dog, legs of a tiger, and a snake for a tail. Pretty terrifying, right? Because these creatures can also transform into a black cloud and fly all over the place. Back in the early years of its construction, it said that the current emperor sent out these powerful warriors to kill it and make the place peaceful at last. Except many believe the Nu is still out there near the shrine, with reports of seeing the creature in the forest surrounding the area. At our number 7 spot, with the Meningi Temple. Meningi Temple is located in Iwamizawa, Japan, and it was originally built in dedication to the Jodo sect of Buddhism. Despite its spiritual beginnings, the temple is now known for the cursed doll that lives within it. The story starts in 1918 Japan. Older brother Eikichi Suzuki bought a doll for his 2-year-old sister Okiku. The doll had a black bob cut and a traditional kimono on it. His sister loved the doll so much that she would even name it after her own name. These two would become so attached together like no other. But in the following year, Okiku became gravely ill and ended up passing away. To commemorate her family put her favorite doll on her memorial shrine. Everything seemed fine until after a few days they would begin to notice something very strange. The doll's hair seemed to be actively growing, and every time it would be cut, it would continue to keep growing. Eventually her family would move away, but chose to keep the doll in the same place, thinking that Okiku would have wanted that. Now it resides in the Meningi Temple, where it's said that monks will cut the doll's hair regularly as it keeps on growing. At number 6 spot, we have the Segeganji Shrine. The Segeganji Shrine, also known as a Kappadera, is a Zen Buddhist temple in Tokyo. It got its name from a Japanese mythological entity known as the Kappa. And no, I don't mean that trashy clothing brand. I'm talking about these guys. Kappas are these human-like creatures, small in stature, with webbed hands and feet. It has a turtle shell on its back, and a beak and a saucer on their head, always seem to be filled with water. These creatures would just be known for their troublemaking. They would play games with both animals and humans, and in some cases, the Kappa would impregnate women and drown people in the rivers where they resided. Apparently, when the place was prone to flooding, the people of the area asked for the Kappa for existence, and now many claim that the Kappas are still nearby, claiming the place as their own. There are several statues of the Kappa littered around the shrine, but who knows if one of them turns out to be real. At the hump of our list, we have the Zenkoji Temple. The Zenkoji Temple is a Buddhist temple located in the city of Nagano, Japan. The main temple of Zenkoji has a dark room created for spiritual purposes and acts like a shrine in a way. This dark room follows a pitch black tunnel underneath the temple that monks had supposedly hid the quote key to paradise. In order to do this, you need to hone your 5 senses and have complete focus while trying to navigate yourself through this area. This area is supposed to represent the journey between death and rebirth. It's very simple to understand how this represents the pursuit of enlightenment, which is only possible once you let go of your physical limitations and your concerns. People think that if you find the key, they will be saved, while others believe that if you fail, you will have a series of bad luck and unfortunate mishappenings. Regardless if you succeed or not, this room is bound to have a terrifying experience regardless. At number 4 spot, we have Mount Osor. This is one of Japan's most sacred sites, and for good reason. It's claimed by many to be one of the entrances to hell. First, the temple lies on top of a volcanic plain, and as you roam the area, you will constantly pick up a scent of sulfur, which is already eerie because this is the smell of ghosts and demons, supposedly. But volcanic reasons also make sense. According to Buddhist monks, they say that this place resembles the descriptions of hell and also paradise, so this is why many believe this is a spirit hub. Also around the area are these little jizo statues, which were there to guide people who were lost, especially for children to take and keep them for safety. People who have lost their children bring pebbles to the site as an offering for their kids to go easily through the afterlife. Except many of these pebbles are left broken and many have placed the blame on evil demons in the area. There's also a festival at the shrine where blind women called Itaku bring messages from the afterlife back to the living. So best believe there are quite a few spirits here waiting to be communicated with. At number 3 spot, we have the Owari Tamaya Shrine. This shrine in Tokyo has one of the most famous ghost stories in all of Japan associated with it. The story goes that Owa was a very pure and faithful woman, married to a terrible man named Tamaya Lemon. This man killed her in order to marry a richer woman. While the accounts on how he killed her vary, this all include poisoning her with terrible consequences to her looks. Obviously, she wouldn't be keen on this whole new marriage thing and she proceeded to ruin the marriage, making him kill his new wife and her family by making them look like her dead self, and finally killed him too. The shrine was built to represent Owa's angry spirit and it still rests south of the station in Tokyo. At our number 2 spot, we're the Kaikuji Temple. This place has nothing really scary about it except the fact that it has mummified bodies on display. Okay, maybe it is a bit scary. These mummified figures are known as a Sokushin Butsu, also known as the living Buddha or Buddha mummies. These are in fact real people and they are the bodies of priests who belong to the Shingon sect of Japanese Buddhism. All the mummies we see here are priests who made the drastic decision in self-mummification. Just something about a body that is fully intact for hundreds of years that makes it so creepy, right? The process for the mummification would actually be pretty intense. For the first 1000 days they would do extreme fasting and exercising. Then on the next 1000 days they would reduce their diets to a bare minimum. The last 1000 days would consist of entombment. Basically they would bury themselves alive, essentially while in a deep state of meditation in order to reach enlightenment. At number 1 spot we have the Taki Shrine. This shrine is consumed in moss but looks very beautiful, but the story behind it completely ruins it. This shrine was established in the Teryaku era of Japan, which was around 900 AD. Legend goes that a man was hunting for yokai and fighting against sorcery in the region. When he was roaming the area, it would slowly get consumed by a dark black cloud. Unable to move further, the man prayed to the gods and fired an arrow up into the clouds. When the arrow came back down, the cloud drifted away, and the spot where the arrow hit is a supposed location of the Taki Shrine. Every now and then the mountain will be filled with fog and mist, which only adds to the amazing atmosphere of the nature in the area, but it also has a little bit of creepiness in it. And it's also a time when most of the region's spirits seem to be resting. Many believe that many yokai are resting by the shrine, so it's best to visit this area when there's still light outside because many people have gone missing when night hits. Number 10, the cursed Kleenex commercial. In 1986, Kleenex released a commercial in Japan that has sparked a series of disturbing urban legends. The ad featured a woman in white and an ogre-looking child sitting on a pile of hay and enjoying Kleenex tissues while the song It's a Fine Day by Jane and Barton played in the background. While almost instantly after the commercial was aired, TV stations and Kleenex corporate allegedly began receiving complaints about the ad, which many found very unsettling. Some people claim that the entire film crew met untimely deaths in freak accidents following this, while others said that the child in the commercial had passed away immediately after filming. There are also rumors that the actress Kaiku Matsuzaka had either passed away or been committed to a psychiatric hospital or even became pregnant with a demon baby following the commercial. Others claim that when the ad came on at night, the singer's voice in the commercial transformed from that of a young soprano to a raspy old woman's, and the ad became so unsettling to the public that Kleenex eventually pulled it and replaced it with a different one. However, after doing further research, Kaiku Matsuzaka, the girl in the video, is alive and well, and besides that, it's not that bad of an ad. Or at least I think that. At a number 9 spot, we have the Sony Timer. The Sony Timer, also known as the Sony Kill Switch, is a rumored feature that is said to exist in electronic devices produced by Sony. The feature was that Sony devices were equipped with a timer that causes the product to stop functioning after a predetermined period of time, forcing you to purchase a replacement. Considering the stuff we know about the Apple updates slowing your phone down, this is really not a surprise now. Anyways, the legend of the Sony Timer originated in Japan in the 1980s and early 1990s, and despite the lack of concrete evidence to support the myth, a significant portion of the Japanese population believed in it. The legend remained confined in Japan until 2006, when a recall of over 4 million Dell laptops equipped with defective Sony lithium batteries rekindled the legend of the Sony Timer. And despite Sony's efforts to contain the rumor, it eventually came to the knowledge of consumers outside of Japan and had a negative impact on the sales of Sony Vaio laptop computers. Then more recently in 2021, the legend resurfaced once again when an anti-cheat measure in the PlayStation Network had the potential to render games unplayable on certain PlayStation consoles. But much of this is still speculation, and such a thing is not confirmed whether or not it truly existed, but we really know that they try to make our devices bad, so they want us to buy a replacement. We all know that. At a number 8 spot, we have the Alice killings. The Alice killings remain one of the most mysterious and unsolved serial killings in Japanese history. From 1999 to 2005, 5 killings took place, each with a calling card left at the scene by the killer. More specifically, a playing card with the word Alice would be written on it on the victim's blood. The victims were diverse, ranging from a restaurant owner to a high school student to a college student to a nurse. However, they all shared the eerie and gruesome playing card left at the scene of their murders. The first victim, Sasaki Megumi, was a 29-year-old restaurant owner known for her strong personality and excellent cooking. She was last seen alive walking home from a party, and the next morning her body was found in the woods, torn apart and impaled on tree branches, with the Jack of Spades card found in her mouth. The second victim, Yamane Akio, was a singer whose body was found in a bar, his vocal cords ripped out and a gunshot wound to the head. The King of Diamonds card was found in his hands. The third victim, Kai Sakura, was a high school student whose body was found in a shallow grave, mutilated and with a crown sewn onto her head. The Queen of Clubs card was found on a stick marking the grave. The fourth victim, Hasegawa Hiroki, was a college student whose body was found with the Ace of Spades card. The fifth and final victim, Takahashi Ayumi, was a nurse whose body was found with the Joker card. After doing further research, fortunately this person never existed in Japan, but in reality there was a serial killer who was caught that was using playing cards, except it was in Spain, not Japan. They were caught in 2003 and sentenced to 142 years in prison, and not to worry, they do not have a pack of playing cards with them, nor will I think they will ever be allowed to play with cards ever again. Number 7, the Howling Inuwaki Tunnel. The legend of the Inuwaki Tunnel and the village has been a source of fascination in Japan for decades. Located in the remote mountains of the Fukuoka prefecture, the tunnel is said to be haunted by the ghosts of those who went missing inside of it, and is only accessible through an abandoned village called the Inuwaki village. According to the legend, all who enter the village are doomed to a violent death, and the Japanese constitution does not apply there. The legend of the Inuwaki Tunnel and village may have been inspired by a real-life murder that took place in the tunnel in 1988. According to the story, a group of teens kidnapped, robbed, and tortured a young man before burning him alive in the tunnel. The tunnel, being remote and rarely used by traffic, was a popular spot for gangs, and the brutal murder likely contributed to the creation of the legend in the first place. Today, the tunnel is considered one of the most haunted places in Japan, with large concrete bricks blocking its entrance, but that hasn't stopped adventurers from trying to enter it. Locals say that electronic devices and even their cars often break down when they're around this tunnel, and that others sometimes hear the sounds of barking dogs and ghostly screams emanating from deep inside of the tunnel. The legend has inspired numerous films and books and other sorts of media, including the 2020 film Howling Village from Ju-on creator Takashi Shimizu. Number 6, the Yaomaoba. Ever wanted to take a hike in the mountains of Japan? Well, just be on the lookout for the Yaomaoba, also known as the Mountain Witch, who supposedly resides in these elevated regions of the country. Yaomaoba is often depicted as an old woman with long unkept hair and a wild experience who lives in the mountains and is associated with the spirit world. According to the stories, this creature is a benevolent figure who helps lost travelers find their way home, while in other stories, she is portrayed as a malevolent being who lures people into the mountains and causes them to go missing. Some locals claim that she was once a regular girl who ran into the mountains to escape false accusations. Here she grew angry and resentful and would eventually have cannibalistic tendencies, along with practicing black magic. So on your next hike, don't be deceived by anyone you might come across, because the amount of encounters with this creature leads me to believe that she is really up there in the mountains of Japan. Number 5, Kagome Kagome. Kagome Kagome is a Japanese children's game, and in the game, a group of children joins hands and walks around in circles around a child who is chosen to be the Oni, or demon. The Oni sits in the center of the circle with their eyes covered, while the other children sing the Kagome Kagome song. When the song is over, the Oni has to guess the name of the person standing directly behind them. This game takes a sinister twist when a group of people found themselves caught in the game on a foggy suspension bridge. In this case, the group was split into 2 cars, with the first car carrying 3 people and the second car carrying 4 people. So when they reach the bridge, it is already getting dark and the fog is not helping. The first car comes to a halt and the couple gets out, joining hands. They then climb over the railing of the bridge and throw themselves off, much to the shock and horror of the other passengers. One of the other people in the car is found talking to themselves, repeatedly muttering the quote, "mustn't go." The couple is later found dead and is ruled to have both taken their lives. When they ask the remaining survivors of the first car what happened, they say that a girl wearing kimono suddenly appeared in front of their car, causing them to stop. This is when they said that their car was encircled by a group of children who then began saying Kagome Kagome. The children were enticing the passengers to join hands with them, and the couple eventually gave in, while the manager was protected by religiously repeating the phrase, "mustn't go." Number 4, the Red Room Curse. The Red Room Curse is a legend that has long circulated on the internet in Japan, with various versions of the story being told. At its core, the legend involves a mysterious pop-up ad that appears on a person's computer, announcing their impending death. According to the most common version of the legend, while browsing the internet, the victim will be presented with a pop-up featuring a black text on a red background that says, "Do you like blank?" When the victim tries to close the pop-up, it reappears with the text changed to "Do you like the red room?" and the screen turns red, displaying a list of names of the red room's victims. After seeing the pop-up, the victim will sense a mysterious presence behind them and then lose consciousness. They will later be found dead in their home, with the walls of the room in which they are discovered painted red with blood. The origins of the legend can be traced back to a Japanese interactive horror animation that was uploaded to GeoCities in the late 1990s. However, the legend gained notoriety in 2004 due to the Sasebo slashing, a murder case involving a young girl who was a fan of the animation and had the video bookmarked on her computer at the time of the murder. So there is some truth to this. But what do you guys think about the curse? Real or not? Number 3, the cursed poem Tamino's Hell. Published by Japanese poet Seiju Yasu, it is said that one of his poems named Tamino's Hell is cursed and could kill or haunt people if read loud. So just to not die, I'll be playing it safe and I'll just show you the poem rather than reading it. In 1974, Japanese filmmaker Terayama Tsuji directed a movie based on Tamino's Hell. Unfortunately, he ended up passing away in 1983. This is where people first believed that the movie was cursed, since the poem was used and read in the movie. As time went by, people began forgetting about the incident, but then in 2004, one Japanese writer published a book based on the poem, saying, quote, "If you by chance happen to read the poem out loud, after you will suffer from a terrible fate which cannot be escaped." It's said that even hearing someone saying the poem out loud can lead your life into disaster or even death. So let's read it out loud. I'm just kidding, everyone relax. Nowadays, this poem is feared internationally, but for those who remain skeptical, come on, give this one a read. Number 2, the Curse of the Colonel. This might be odd to hear, but apparently a baseball team in the Kansai region of Japan named the Hanshin Tigers are supposedly cursed by the ghost of Colonel Sanders. Yes, the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken. According to legend, the curse was placed on the team because of the Colonel's anger over the treatment of one of his storefront statues, which was thrown in the Dotonbori River by celebrating Hanshin fans after their team victory in the 1985 Japanese Championship, which was thrown in the Dotonbori River by celebrating Hanshin fans after their team's victory in the 1985 Japan Championship Series. The curse was said to explain the team's subsequent 18-year losing streak, and many people believe that the team would never win another Japanese series until the statue was recovered. The curse has also been compared to the curse of the Bambino, which is said to afflict the Boston Red Sox until they won the World Series in 2004. Despite the supposed curse, the Hanshin Tigers have appeared in the Japan Series 3 times since the statue has been thrown into the river, losing in 2003, losing in 2005, and losing in 2014. Whether or not the curse of the Colonel is real, it has become an enduring and fascinating part of the Japanese sports legends, and also the first time I've ever heard of the Kentucky Fried Chicken founder cursed cursing something. Number 1, human sacrifice at the Meiuroka Castle. The Meiuroka Castle, also known as the Mist Castle, is a Hirayama-style Japanese castle located in the city of Sakai. It is considered to be one of the oldest castles in Japan and is said to be protected by a mist that appears whenever an enemy is nearby. According to the legend, the castle was built at the end of the Sengoku period in the 1500s with the use of human sacrifice known as hitobashira. The practice of hitobashira, or human pillars, was believed to appease deities and protect against natural and man-made disasters. For those who don't know, it is basically making humans into the stone pillars and the walls that make up a building. It was commonly used in the construction of large buildings such as castles, dams, and bridges. However, the story of Meiuroka's castle's hitobashira centers around a woman named Oshizu, who is a poor one-eyed mother of 2. When the construction of the castle was plagued by problems and the walls kept collapsing, a vassal suggested the use of human sacrifice. And this is when Oshizu was chosen for the sacrifice, and she only agreed to this on the condition that one of her children would be made into a samurai. Oshizu was entombed under the pillars of the castle, with stones being placed on top of her as she was slowly being crushed to death. It is said that she accepted her fate stoically, knowing that her children would have a better future as a result. After her sacrifice, the walls of the castle remained standing and the construction continued without further issues. However, the man responsible for the castle's construction, Shibata Katsutoya, did not follow through on his promise to make Oshizu's son a samurai. As a result, Oshizu's spirit returned to haunt the castle, causing the moat to overflow every spring in a phenomenon known as the Tears of Oshizu. To this day, the Meiuroka Castle is said to be haunted by the vengeful spirit of Oshizu. Some claim to have seen her ghost wandering the castle grounds or heard her haunting cries in the castle during some nights. Well, these are the top 10 Japanese urban legends that are very real. What did you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with your thoughts and some suggestions for future videos. I'm your host Andrew, and don't forget to like and subscribe this video for some more content. I hope you guys have a scary day.